What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mode video. So today we have the Season 9 patch notes. As you guys know, we're already over halfway through the season, surprisingly. I mean, time's going by fast with this one. But that's typically the case for most seasons right before a major update. But yes, we do have the balance changes for Season 9, and it's actually quite interesting. A lot of changes that I do like to see. And there are some that are actually kind of surprising given the state of, I guess, where the game is right now in terms of balancing. So for the first change, we do have some reduction to horizontal recoil, or I guess in this case, lateral recoil for the PDW-57. Something that I didn't really think the PDW needed given the fact that it's, I mean, honestly, at this point, it doesn't really have that much, vertical recoil, let alone horizontal. So I don't see why the change needed to happen, but I guess they're trying to make this into like the next CBR or something like that, which at this point, it kind of already is. I've been using this a lot recently, and I've been kind of like enjoying my time with it. And given, all the buffs that it's had over time, it's honestly become a very close thing to a CBR. So now let's talk about the CR56 AMAX. So the range was increased in the third range, increased by 2 meters. So now it went from 28 meters to 30 meters. And for the M67 mag, it also increases bullet spread accuracy now, something that I didn't have prior. So now we move on to the ASM-10. The ADS speed was increased from 280 milliseconds to 250 milliseconds. It's a pretty noticeable increase if you think about it, and I think it's actually for the best, given the fact that while the ASM-10 can 3-shot, it probably of all assault rifles has like the least 3-shot range. I would say like even the GKS itself has better 3-shot range than this one. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, the SM-10 kind of needed a speed increase. And given the fact that a lot of people like to use the Branson barrel with the monolithic suppressor to at least get some range, yeah, it does slow down your gun a little bit more than it should. And even with the no stock, it still was pretty slow. So I'm glad that they're finally kind of like increasing the speed for it. As for the horizontal recoil or lateral recoil, again, it doesn't really seem like it had any in the first place, or even if it did, it was very minor, but I guess they're trying to make it more stable. So the range was removed for the AS Val, I guess the fourth one to be exact. So now you're pretty much going to have an infinite 5-shot range, at least in BR, if I guess also if the enemy isn't armored. But also for the SPP 15 round mag, they removed the flinch penalty, which I didn't even know it had. And also for the increased BSA, which is something that I do need to talk about with this particular attachment, because it does change a lot of the stats with the gun that you may not be aware of. Besides the massive damage buff and the range buff that it does get, it also does increase the bullet speed without actually telling you. So if you go into the stats and you put this on, you'll notice that the bullet speed is crazy high. So yeah, that's something worth mentioning, and I'm assuming with this attachment as well, it probably has its own type of BSA as well. So yeah, having this different attachment on kind of just changes the gun almost completely. So now we move on to the SHICOM. So again, another lateral recoil decrease. Again, I'm not even sure if the SHICOM even had it. The last time I used it was pretty stable for the most part. But I guess it's whatever. I guess it's going to be a lot more stable now, but I don't really see a lot of people using this anyways. So now, probably for one of the more interesting changes of these patch notes is actually the Pharo. So yeah, I did kind of talk shit in the last video talking about how the Pharo was kind of useless and no one even knows that it even exists unless they're getting Damascus. So they did decrease the vertical recoil, as well as the taser recharge speed increased from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, meaning that it's going to, reload a lot faster. And I'm not really sure if the taser allows you to go with the secondary firing attachment or like whatever that option was in the settings. But yeah, apparently you could actually tase people a little quicker now. But for the decreased vertical recoil, that's something I actually want to do change. I'm hoping that this time around, they finally make this gun stable enough to use. At the very least, stable enough for me not required to use like a marksman barrel to slow my gun down heavily. And now for the dumbest change in the history of the universe, the Grau 556 Archangel barrel range increased 35% to 45%, even though the range was already crazy enough. And they also decreased the ADS speed movement penalty from 15% to 12%. Not really much of a major change right there, but again, the Grau has been pretty strong for a very long time. Especially in controller lobbies. I mean, this is like everyone's go-to assault rifle right now. And the fact that they're just buffing this even further is probably the dumbest move that they can make. But I'm actually surprised that's not even meta, or I guess considered meta for ranked. I mean, this gun's absolutely insane. But yeah, it's probably going to take a while for people to realize that. And hopefully this update might actually do that. And maybe people will complain about it to get it nerfed because it is fucking overpowered as hell. So now going to the HVK 30, the large caliber ammo decreased from 32 rounds to 28 rounds. So honestly, it was actually worse than, you know, the prior change that actually increased the ammo amount, because before I think it was at 29, but they reduced it to 28. I think they probably should have just kept it at 30 or something like that, and probably just modified some of the range values or something. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they didn't have to go this far, but yeah, I mean, other changes could have been made. So now a long needed change for the Holger. So the no stock ADS attachment of ADS movement speed got decreased from 40% ADS mobility to 26% ADS mobility. So this is a massive decrease to movement speed, and something I think the Holger needed for quite a while. And I'm surprised they didn't do this sooner when they nerfed it the first time. But yeah, overall the stats for the Holger are more or less the same range, same ADS speed, but just the ADS movement speed for that no stock attachment has been decreased. So yeah, is it not going to be meta? I mean, I'm not really that sure. You could probably just use Skulker to kind of make up for it, but even then I'm not really too sure. I'm sure this one change alone might drive people away from this weapon. So also we do have an ADS bullet spread increase, well, pretty much a nerf for the LK24, making it a little more inaccurate than before. Honestly, this gun actually does kind of baffle me, because I think there are like a lot better guns than the LK24 right now. And it kind of surprises me that it's actually #1 in the list, like according to Pharo. I think it's probably because of the headshot damage and I guess in this case the accuracy, but I still don't believe it should have been #1. I felt like there could have been weapons out there that are a lot better than this one, but I mean, I guess. AK-47, so the ADS speed was increased once more from 270 milliseconds to 250 milliseconds, making the gun a lot faster. So I'm starting to sense a little bit of a theme, but I'll get into that at the end of the patch notes video. So yeah, let's move on to the next weapon. The EM2 as well did get an ADS speed increase from 280 milliseconds to 260 milliseconds. So that may not sound like much, but given that this is a Black Ops weapon and there are a lot of attachments that can increase the speed like crazy, this is a pretty massive change. And yeah, this might actually drive people to use this a little more. So now we move on to all the other changes, such as like tacticals, lethals, and even perks. So Echo Grenade, scans per grenade is now 2 instead of 1, so you could be able to detect your enemies a lot more easily. And I don't know if this is really going to work so well in respawn modes, but I'm sure in search and destroy it might actually help a little more. As for the spycraft, they reduced the required time to hack an enemy electronics. So this is kind of important given the fact that, you know, this game is pretty fast paced at times, so you're never really going to have time to hack your equipment. And you know, the times that I've gotten my equipment just like stolen from me is very, very rare. So yeah, I don't know how much of an impact this is going to make for spycraft. We have to see how fast it actually is. As for agile, they also slightly increased the mantling speed. So now Demo Expert also got an explosion damage increase from 25% to 30%. It may not sound like much, but it does seem like it's a lot. I'm not sure how this is going to help the cluster grenade, given that it can't even kill anyone at all. So yeah, maybe it might slightly increase the chances by like 0.0001%. But yeah, I mean, for other explosive equipment, this might actually be a huge change, especially for also launchers. I forgot about that one as well. Could this also be a change that is kind of hinting towards the Joker's release? You know, that launcher that has that lock-on feature. I'm not really that sure, but it probably can. And I don't know, this might actually help it get, you know, multi-kills if it's required of us, and also if it does come out within these coming seasons. So the recon perk got changed, even though no one ever uses it. They increased the detection radius from 5 meters to 7 meters. This might not be that useful in respawns, just like the other perk I was talking about, but I don't really, yeah, yeah, it might be useful in search and destroy though, but yeah, basically they increased the detection radius, so now you could actually scan enemies from further away, slightly. But I don't really think this is going to make too much of a difference overall within this game. So now for the BR changes, the M13 damage increased from 24-18-16 to 24-19-18, meaning that, honestly, I don't even know what this means. It might be a little bit more deadlier at longer ranges. I mean, I always thought the M13 was already fucking amazing, but yeah, I guess so. The AK-117 also had a range increase from, 12.5 meters to 23 meters, from 14 meters to 25 meters. So nothing really crazy right there, but they also decreased the aim assist. So yes, it's going to be a little harder to use this one. As for the shockwave class, recharge amount after upgrading decreased from 2 to 1. So I think you could only use this like once, but also the recharging time was after upgrading was, I guess, decreased by 4 seconds. So it does recharge a little faster. As for the kinetic station class, armor value increased 50-70 to 75-100. So now we have some changes to the Desperado class, especially for the shield turret. So they added strong aim assist to the shield turret, which is something that I felt like it kind of needed. I'm not really sure if the shield turret had a lot of aim assist at all, if any. But yeah, it did kind of need some, something to help you a little bit, especially if like the player is moving like crazy. The turret damage also increased from 55-50, 45-40 to 65-60, 48-45. So a pretty massive change in terms of damage. And they also gains 1.1 times multiplier for chest and arm shots. The bullet speed was also adjusted from, well, it's now 640 meters per second. The bullet impact is set to 3, so you're going to flinch a lot more. And they also increased the damage dealt to vehicles from 100% to 200%. So yes, overall the shield turret has become a lot stronger for Season 9. So there you guys have it. That's basically all of the patch notes for Season 9. There might be more later on down the line. I mean, sometimes they do typically tend to leave some information out. But based on what I've seen so far, I mean, it's nice that they're finally upgrading some of the perks like recon and everything. As for the nerfs, let's actually discuss that first. So the HVK, lowering the ammo capacity on the large caliber from 32 to 28, I think they should probably just left it at 30 or something, just to at least meet people in the middle. I mean, the weapon is strong, but at the same time, it's not like it's two-shotting people across the map. And at the same time, I mean, there's probably a lot worse, like, weapons out there. And keep in mind also, I mean, it's like hitting in the head is, honestly, it's not something that every person can do. I mean, sometimes if you do get those two-shot headshots, it's because you got lucky or something like that. Or if you're actually trying to get headshots for the gun. But based on what I've seen so far with other changes, I mean, most of the lateral recoil decrease changes are not really that important for the most part. I mean, the PDW has always been one of those very accurate SMGs in terms, at least when it comes to like the recoil patterns. As for the Shicom, it did have a little bit, but again, it wasn't so much so that it needed to be changed in any way. But something I also did notice about these different patch notes is that they do seem to be increasing the speed of a lot of 3-shot weapons. And this is something that's been happening over time. I mean, we've seen it a lot with the Man of War and a little bit with the EM2, but I mean, they're doing this with like every 3-shot weapon, with the ASM-10, the AK-47, and even further ADS speed changes to the EM2. So without directly spelling it out to us, it kind of seems like they're slowly trying to phase in another 3-shot meta. I mean, not that it's a problem with me. I mean, there's weapons now that could keep up with them. But yeah, it kind of gives me that idea, given that they're making them so much faster than before. But yeah, that's pretty much my entire thoughts on the patch notes. I mean, there's a lot of good changes, and I'm hoping that we could see a lot more changes to other stuff within, the future for Season 9 and, like all the optimizations. That's the one thing I actually really want to see with Season 9. I don't really care too much about the weapon changes, but yeah. Anyways, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.